Welcome back to the Fanboy Cantina. This is our review of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. First, we're going to try to go spoiler light, and then we'll get into some of the spoilers. We'll put up a notice before that happens. From the description, the Spengler family returns to where it all started, the iconic New York City firehouse, to team up with the original Ghostbusters, who have developed a top-secret research lab to take busting ghosts to the next level. But when the discovery of an ancient artifact unleashes an evil force, Ghostbusters new and old must join forces to protect their home and save the world from a second ice age. I generally had a good time with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. The film feels tonally more in line with the first two Ghostbusters films and makes use of the new and original Ghostbusters. Paul Rudd and Dan Aykroyd get a lot of screen time, though it's McKenna Grace that serves as the core heart of the film as Phoebe Spengler, granddaughter of the late Egon Spengler. The movie centers on the Spengler family dynamic plus Paul Rudd's Groberson. There are cool new ghost-busting technologies and a new big bad villain for the two legacies of Ghostbusters to confront. I did like the look of Garaka, the new villain in this film. While I had a good time watching Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, the film is not perfect, suffering from too many characters and plot lines that sags the pacing. Unless you're Paul Rudd, Dan Aykroyd, or McKenna Grace, there's not much of a story here for you, simply because there are so many characters. Kumail Nanjiani's Nadim could have had more of an arc instead of appearing in the beginning and really off the table for much of the movie. There are at least two story choices that have characters acting out of character. I can think of one version of the story that could have raised the stakes and eliminated a side character. I can think of another one that could have given a character more to do and a more satisfying ending. Instead, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire generally plays it safe and with more bland results. To go on a sidebar here, there's a big difference between where the Ghostbusters franchise started and where it is today. After the success of Ghostbusters 2, it was kind of a long time before we saw the Ghostbusters on the big screen again. There's a whole generation in between there that really loved the Ghostbusters, the real Ghostbusters cartoons, which I think changed the franchise towards a more family-friendly franchise. When you rewatch Ghostbusters, there's a lot of innuendo, a lot of snarky humor, along with some fairly scary scenes, and of course that catchy classic theme song. So with Ghostbusters Afterlife, there's a bit of mourning and longing for the franchise. So it's tonally very different, which I think to a degree made it very interesting. And with the reconciling of loss and the finale, what Ghostbusters Afterlife lacked in ghosts and ghost busting is made up for with its emotional stakes. With this movie and the teenage characters, this is a family-friendly Ghostbusters franchise. You don't even see Ray smoking anymore, a point that's acknowledged in the film. So I really miss that dimension of the original Ghostbusters, the humor, a bit of raunchy humor, the dynamic between the original Ghostbusters, but I can appreciate that this is a different story, different set of Ghostbusters, and still having fun in its own right. I think the script was probably a few turns away from being a much stronger movie. Because of the multiple storylines and characters, it feels like a film written by committee. And it's really just less than 3 years, since Ghostbusters Afterlife, such that the rush to production was probably at the expense of a more cohesive storyline, more cohesive script. And that's really too bad, because there are some really harsh reviews of this film. I didn't think it was boring. I didn't think it ruined the franchise. I had a good time. So despite the flaws, I had a lot of fun with Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. It's a good movie. It'll be a good ride with your family. And I hope there are more Ghostbusters films to come. All right, now it's time for the spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film, you might want to hit pause and come back later. Now, I mentioned that there were a couple of scenes where I felt that characters were acting out of character. In the previous Ghostbusters films, it's well established that Ray is highly knowledgeable about the spirit world. Yet here, there's this mysterious orb that shows up, sends the PKE meter off the charts, creates this massive disturbance, and yet, Ray goes about his business. It's an unusual turn or behavior, and seems to be only for the sake of doing this minor side quest to find Patton Oswalt in the library. Another scene is Phoebe's decision to get into the ghost machine to connect with Melody. Certainly there's a coming of age aspect to the Phoebe arc here, but it seems very out of character for Phoebe. Even though it's set up for her to feel disconnected from her family and all of that, it seems out of character that she would use the machine for this purpose. Because the film plays it safe in this relationship, maybe they're friends or maybe they're love interests. Either way, there's not enough time spent here to make it believable that she'd take this risk. Now, as I said, I think there could have been a stronger version of this film, could have been a few more iterations of the script, and I think it could have raised the stakes as well that would have made a stronger film. Instead, it plays it safe, and we've got too many storylines here. From the moments in the film, I think there is a suggestion that there was a version where Ray Stantz died. In that interaction between Phoebe and Ray talking about what it would be like to be a ghost, Ray practically longs for it. And there's that chat with Winston about the golden years. It could have been that Ray should have known who Garaka was, but he's losing a step as he gets older. I think there could have been a version where maybe he attempts to sacrifice himself, or maybe he actually dies. Thinking about that further, though, it probably wouldn't carry the same weight if he actually died, given the finale of Afterlife with Egon. But to have him, be put on the brink of a sacrifice that could have raised the stakes. Another version could have had Ray as sharp as ever, and you wouldn't need the Patton Oswalt side quest, and that would have made for a tighter movie. There are plot holes and story conveniences and some sloppy writing. As soon as the lighter goes out, you kind of know Melody with the one match, where the finale is going to head. It's not fully clear why Phoebe had to be the target for Melody. Why did Melody target Phoebe? It's not fully clear why it had to be her. It's not clear why Phoebe chose to add that copper plating to her proton pack, but nobody else's. Sure. But despite these issues, again, I had a good time. Is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire a great movie? No, it isn't. Is it a good movie? Is it a fun movie? Yes, it is. I had a fun time watching this movie. I don't think this franchise can ever recapture the magic of the original first Ghostbusters film, but for this installation, for this experience, I had a good time. As much as I loved the Ghostbusters Afterlife film, this movie, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, feels more in line with what the Ghostbusters franchise should be. But post in the comments. Would love to hear from you. Did you hate the movie? Did you like the movie? Did you love the movie? What did you think of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire? As always, thank you so much for watching. Please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. This has been the Fanboy Cantina.